NFL Draft Day 1 and 2. TJ Houshmandzadeh, what were you looking for during this draft? What was your takeaways so far?
To be honest with you, man, my draft viewing and watching, it was from a selfish perspective because of the guys that I know wanted to see them in good situations, wanted to see them drafted as early as possible. And so that's how I took in the draft, specifically just about my guys and the guys that I know. Just want to see those guys get drafted because you don't know this or how this feels. But
here you go.
No. And even Plax doesn't either. When you see guys that you feel you are better than being drafted ahead of you, it kind of bothers you. And so to see these guys get drafted, I was a couple that probably felt certain guys went ahead of them. That for me, it was good. And like I said earlier, it does not matter where you go. It's what you do when you get there. You can be the last pick, you can be the first pick. If you don't play the way you're supposed to play and prepare the way you're supposed to prepare, you're not going to be in the league long. All them guys in the first round, you clap for them, you say congratulations, half of them going to be busts. And so how do you prevent yourself from being in that percent that don't make it? That's the key. Hard work, preparation, trying to do the right things off the field. And I think a lot of guys don't realize is once you get to the city you play for, you have a ton of free time. How do you manage your free time and make sure that you can stay in that city as long as possible without doing the things you shouldn't do? I mean, you got a lot of free time, you got a lot of money, you got a lot of people knocking at your door for whatever reason. How do you navigate through that? How do you manage that? And those are things that people don't really understand. You know this. You're going to go to OTAs if you graduated, practice for a couple hours, work out for an hour. Rest of the day, what you going to do? And that's every single day. And so just trying to help these guys navigate through that. Watching the draft, now I got some guys that I would like to see drafted. But it's a blessing, man, just to be a part of this.
Indeed. You know, I was watching the draft. I did coverage with Jay Glazer and
yeah, you
Steve
big time.
Kime
You big time. Yeah. You big time. I saw that, man.
I don't
big time, Arrington.
I don't do Fox Sports like you do. I'm not on TV anymore. And for everybody out there who didn't know, you know, TJ is actually the reason why I was able to get back into media. So I just play my role, man. That's all. I was here and we had a good time and broke down the draft. It went really well, you know. But I did not have that experience in the draft, but while we're talking about media, I have had that experience in media for what it's worth. I mean, just put that out there. I do see people out here that I know we're better than that are, on national platforms doing what they do. But God bless, good luck to them and do what you do. But we just, you know, we're here. Like you said, we're available. You know, best ability is availability. And while we were doing that show, you know, I was thinking to myself, man, like Philly is building a juggernaut, man. That was my first thought. They're building a juggernaut. And Detroit might jump out here and whoop everybody's ass next year. Now Dan Campbell is starting to not look so laughable with some of the bold proclamations and some of the way he approaches the things that he says and how he says it. You know, the architecture of this Detroit Lions team is looking really serious, man. I don't know how many people are up on Jake Campbell, the inside backer.
So it's safe to say you like what the Detroit Lions
you know what's crazy,
have done
man,
and are doing.
I know you have been high on them, and you won your off-whites with that and stuff like that.
Off-whites that I have yet to receive.
Yeah, we're gonna have to we'll have to figure that out because I have been getting my shoe game. Like,
bro,
wait till you see my shoe game.
No. I've noticed that, and I'm like, where are mines?
Yeah, man.
You owe me a pair.
I
won't get them.
I got the plug. I just been spoiling myself.
Okay, there we go.
I really don't ever do anything for myself. You know me. If you know me, you know I do everything for the family. You know what I mean? I don't do nothing. But I have really gotten into. You should see my kicks today, man. I'm gonna send you a picture today. Super fire. We're gonna get you your off whites, bro. And you were on this Detroit kick, and you know what? I I believed in Dan Campbell's belief. I didn't believe that he would get the results. I really didn't. They have started to get the results, obviously, doing as well as they did this season, coming around and really starting to take a definitive step forward. You know, you think that they probably may lose Swift in free agency this year, and he's dealt with injuries, TJ, but, man, they add that baby Jahmyr Gibbs. And if you are aware of Jahmyr Gibbs, he is a Alvin Kamara coast-to-coast type of big play player out of Alabama. I was getting to Jack Campbell, inside backer. You know, he's one of those guys. He will become the heart and soul of this team. Like, that's one of those guys. He's a grown-ass man, super, super high IQ, very, very intelligent, and he's a linebacker. Like, that dude plays linebacker, right? And then they added they added a safety from Alabama. They got Branch.
Sam LaPorta, the tight end from Iowa.
I'll tell you what, bruh. And then they added Hendon Hooker. And that was like kind of like the deciding factor to me. Like, man, now a guy like Hendon Hooker, if he goes to the right situation, which I would say Richardson and Hooker have, in my opinion, the highest ceilings of every quarterback that went in this draft class. Like, I think we know what we're getting with Bryce. I think we know what we're getting with C.J. Stroud. What's going to be their situation? How will it play out? Because there's going to be so much pressure on them to perform immediately. And you and I both know, man, that's a lot of pressure, and that's very hard, especially when you go into a situation where the team hasn't been as good. And you know, Texans will have to see. I think they had a fine draft as well. Carolina, they seem to pull it together a little bit, so it might not be as crazy for Bryce, but it could be a hard situation for him. But for Hendon Hooker, he gets an opportunity to sit behind Goff, learn a little bit. This team is going to continue to improve, and before you know it, it's Hendon Hooker's opportunity to step in and be that guy. I really like what Detroit did in this draft, and if I was taking away outside of Philadelphia, spoils becoming a little bit richer and kind of maybe even broadening the gap between them and other teams, I would say Detroit was the winner definitively so far in the draft for me. What say you before we get to this first break?
You know, honestly, for me, I don't like saying who's a winner and a loser.
Okay, fair.
Soon thereafter, we just don't know. Many will say, why you draft Jahmyr Gibbs this high? Who values running backs? Why would you draft him this high? Many will say the middle linebacker has also become devalued from a draft perspective, not on the field perspective. You trade Hockenson to draft LaPorta, like, huh? Brian Branch, many thought, would be a first-round pick, very versatile. I like that pick. And so you just don't know until these games are played and these players begin to show you don't know. You touch on the Panthers drafting Bryce, the Texans drafting C.J. Stroud. Who's C.J. Stroud throwing the ball to?
Truth.
Who was he throwing the ball to?
They better figure it out.
Like, honestly, if you're not a real football fan, you don't know any of the receivers on the Houston Texans roster. You don't know any of them. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is he left Ohio State. And for the last 2 years, every receiver he's thrown the ball to, for the most part, has been a first-round pick. He's going to the Houston Texans, and he does not have what he played with in college. He's accurate. He'll make it happen. But who is he throwing the ball to? And so you just don't know which team had a good draft, which team did not. CJ's going to be fine. Bryce is going to be fine. And the majority of these players will be fine if they're put in positions to succeed. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, this guy can't play. This guy's a bust. No. I don't believe in that. It's the coaches that have not put them in advantageous positions to be successful. Mm-hmm. That's why a guy's a bust, because the coaches are trying to fit them in a spot that doesn't fit their skill set. Mm-hmm. That's me. So it's hard to say, man. And everybody that was drafted, congratulations. You better keep working. But I don't like to say, oh, this team had a good draft, this team did not. I mean, if I have to pick, and because I will, I liked what the Steelers did. The way the guys the Steelers drafted, I'm a fan
Jr.
of their draft.
Yeah, nice.
You get Darnell Washington late in the third round when you're concerned about his knee injury. Get out of here. When somebody drops, they always make an excuse. Darnell Washington can play football.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a perfect division, perfect team. He's basically an extra lineman that can run. Mm-hmm. And so I like what the Steelers did, but there's a ton of teams going into this that I like, but you just don't know, LaVar. You don't know.
Will Levis, TJ, I got to say, he falls into round 2, ends up with the Titans. The Titans trade up to get to him and to bring him in. I always say sometimes your blessings are wrapped in maybe what you would see of, initially as a, it wasn't a blessing. It was a tragedy. It was bad. It was a failure. A lot of feeling you could see coming from Will Levis and his family on night 1, day 1, when he did not go in the draft, ends up going to Tennessee. But I got to tell you, Tennessee is one of those teams. They're a fringe team. It could go either way with them. But one thing I do know is that Mike Vrabel is a fine coach. If they're trying to build towards the future and trying to figure it out, Will Levis gets the opportunity to allow another quarterback to go through that time of figuring out what's going on while he learns the game, like I just mentioned about Hendon Hooker. And it just seems to make a lot of sense to be in a scenario, in a situation where you learn from that type of staff and not have the pressure of going in immediately. Now, I will say I'm curious as to what this means for Malik Willis. It obviously seems to mean that they're not a believer in Malik Willis, so I wonder if they're going to keep him on the roster. What happens with that scenario? Maybe you can shed some better light on it. But all in all, I don't think this was a bad thing playing out for Will Levis to get it the way that he did. If you recall, a guy by the name of Jalen Hurts did not go in the first round. He actually was a second rounder as well. They didn't even really seem to be excited about him being picked up by the Eagles. Lo and behold, here they are in the Super Bowl this past season, competing for a world title. So what was your takeaway from Will Levis? And I know you talked about how guys that get drafted ahead of you, you sit there and you feel as though you're better than some of these guys, that their names are getting called and it plays a little bit on you. Is this a good thing? Does this play as motivation for Will Levis? How should he be approaching this?
At the quarterback position, it's tough. And it's a lot of what you said. It's a lot of unknown. Like, are they really done with Malik Willis after 1 year when he was a project anyway? He was a guy that wasn't supposed to come in and be an immediate starter. So the fact that they've given up on him, which they have, when you draft the quarterback in back-to-back years, you've given up on the quarterback you drafted in the previous year. Mm-hmm. What did he do to make them say, he doesn't have it? Now, for Will Levis, it's, do the Titans have the weapons? Can they surround him with the weapons to allow him to be successful? Obviously, now we know Ryan Tannehill will be the starter no longer than the next 2 seasons. I mean, that's what it seems like. It's up to Will. His work ethic. Can he process information fast enough? If you look at the S2 test, the S2 test will say he can.
Right.
So let's see if that's the case. Again, was he really that highly touted? We talked about this. I don't know if you're on or if you're off that week or not, LaVar, but we know he started at Penn State. He couldn't beat out Sean Clifford. LaVar. Mm-hmm. And so he's physically very talented, but he transferred from Penn State because he couldn't beat out a quarterback that is yet to be drafted. And so you can be physically everything, but if you don't understand things mentally, if you can't process information, if you can't think and then react and just play with great timing, your physical attributes don't matter. And so all these kids, man, I wish the best for all of them. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But you got to be put in good situations. He's in a good situation with Mike Vrabel, the way he runs a program. Tennessee was not very good when he took that job, and he's done a very, very good job with the Titans. And so if you can get in any situation, this is one of a few that you say, okay, I like my chances here. He needs weapons. They don't have the guys on the outside. Shouldn't have traded A.J. Brown, but Swatter, that's a done deal now. So they got to put some weapons around these dudes and hope that's enough. But Will Levis has a physical talent. Can now he mentally process everything that needs to be done to be a successful quarterback?
I'm high on Will. I'm wishing the best for him. I'm a tad bit biased. He is a Penn State Nittany Lion before he became a Kentucky Wildcat. I do know him personally. I know he has the mindset and the resolve to take a situation like this where he's probably very, very tremendously disappointed and where he was drafted, but will ultimately turn this into motivation to
LaVar,
prove
if he's a
people
good player,
wrong. He'll prove them wrong.
If he's a good player, you get the free agency sooner than everybody that was drafted ahead of you.
That's very true.
You look at it that way.
Yeah.
You got me now. Hopefully I can get you later.
It just comes back again to what I feel like originally started the conversation is sometimes there's a blessing within the curse, or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's a curse, but you look at it from the standpoint of your hopes are so high to go high in the draft, and it didn't happen that way, but you might have ended up exactly where you needed to be, because a lot of times when you go early, you don't end up in the best situations in terms of having an opportunity to have success. So we'll see how that plays out.